And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our virtual presentation of Kingston and the Magicians Lost and Found. We are here today with writing team Rucker Moses and Theo Gangi, as well as our moderator, Zeno Robinson. This event includes an audience Q&A, so to ask a question, just use the Ask a Question feature at the very bottom of the screen. You can also vote for any question you'd like for our guests to answer, and they'll make their way to the top of the list. Also, if you would like to support our bookstore tonight by purchasing a copy of tonight's featured book, just click on the green purchase button directly below the viewer's screen. We will have signed copies available, so to receive one, make sure to write signed copy in the comment section when you are completing your purchase. And also, Vroman's Bookstore is the oldest independent bookstore in Southern California. We're 126 years old. So any support, whether it's purchasing a book tonight or boosting us on social media, we appreciate any bit of support. With that said, let me introduce our moderator for tonight, and I'll let him take things away. So Zeno Robinson is an actor and voice actor who strives for growth, innovation, and diversity within his work. His voice can be heard on Disney's Big City Greens, My Hero Academia, Pokemon Journeys, and many, many more. So I'm gonna turn off my camera and Zeno, take it away.
Hello. What's up, everybody? As previously introduced, I am Zeno Robinson, and I am here with Rucker Moses, also known as Craig Phillips and Harold Hayes, who are the writers of Kingston and the Magicians Lost and Found. Now, I have spent a lot of time with these two individuals. That we go way back, way farther back than you think. They were responsible for some of my first on-camera work, some of my first in-studio work, and I love these two. They're great. They were part of this thing called Sunny Boy Entertainment, and we also have Theo. Was saying this right? Gangi, right? Yeah. I did it. Okay. Cool. So yeah, without
what's up, Zeno?
What's going on? Rucker Moses, is there anything you want to tell us about the name? Why you guys didn't go with your original names?
Start
before we get into the reading.
Well, we've known Zeno, like you said, for 15 years now. We did a thing like way back. I think Zeno was like 15 when we first worked with them, and a video that Harold and I did for the LA school system. It was a long time ago, but Zeno's taken off. He's got this amazing career, but he knew us back when we were starting Sunny Boy, and that's our company. And we've always kind of worked under a moniker. And Sunny Boy, we always said like Sunny Boy's our boss. That's who we answer to. It just allowed us to kind of leave our egos at the door. So we figured when we were working on a book and we were working with Theo on this, that we would just come up with a name. So Rucker Moses was born.
Yeah, but it also comes from the last name, which is of a great magician named Black Herman. His original name is Benjamin Rucker. So the Rucker comes from his part of his name. And then there's book 2, which is coming out a little bit later in the year. Ooh, I kind of spoiled that. Right. It goes a lot into Egyptology and such, and so and what magic meant to them. And a pivotal figure there was Moses. And we just thought it also sounded really good together. So Black Herman, which we'll talk about later, he plays a pivotal role in book 1 and 2, but for pivotal figure for Kingston to follow.
Cool. Theo, you want to say tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the reading? How'd you get involved with Rucker Moses and Kingston?
Yeah, actually, I had the pleasure of working with Stacey Barney, the editor of the book, back a long time ago, a number of years ago. She published my first book back in 2007.
Wow.
So cool. We'd stayed in touch and always kind of wanted to work on something together. And I was working on a fantasy book, more of like a kind of traditional one, but for like epic fantasy, but for young readers. And when she saw this pitch, she thought of me, I guess. And so she made the connection, and I think we just vibed right away. And I certainly vibe with the material right away. In Kingston, it just had so much personality and heart, and I'm a sucker for Brooklyn and magic.
Cool.
So it was like, yeah, it was a nice, perfect little braid of the three of us.
Cool. Now I've known about Kingston for quite some time now. And my little experiences, because I've known, I've known Rucker Moses. I've seen the ups and downs and the how the development of Kingston kind of came to be. And, it was like a show, and then you guys had, I did some I did cool promos for photo shoots for pitches, with me and Kingston. It was really dope. We did it. We did it like an alley somewhere, right? And
in Pasadena. Right near Vroman's.
Yeah, great.
I never saw this.
So now it's really awesome seeing it all come together. And with that being said, I think we should get into the reading.
Zeno's gonna read the first chapter. And
I'm gonna read the first chapter for you guys. If it's okay, I'd like to turn my camera off so that way you only hear the sultry sound of my voice. The world of Kingston being kind of brought to life here. So let me see if I can do that. All right, here we go, you guys. Kingston and the Magicians Lost and Found. Rucker Moses and Theo Gangi. Chapter 1. My father was famous. He was the greatest magician in Echo City, and he made himself disappear. Disappear, like here 1 second, gone the next. Not disappear like he went out for milk and eggs and never came back, like the bullies at school used to say. He wasn't abducted by aliens or kidnapped by the mob. He doesn't have another family, and he isn't dead. He's alive. I know he is. No one else thinks so, but I know. Ma says not to sit around waiting for him, and I'll just be disappointed. She's afraid I'll be like him, that I'll get lost in magic, and she'll lose me like she lost him. I promise her I won't get lost. Sometimes she believes me. Sometimes I mean it. It's been 4 years, 6 months, and 7 days since he's been gone. I was 8 years old then. That's also 4 years and 5 months since we left Brooklyn. And today, we're moving back to Pop's old home in Echo City, Brooklyn. Ma says the James family brownstone, aka 52 Rick Street, will go back to the bank if we don't. She taught me a nasty sounding word, foreclosure. It's like closed, but times 4 and with the at the end, in case you didn't know that word meant business. Ma says it means banks take your house when you run out of money. So now she wants to open up a cafe, which is her lifelong dream. But she's still nervous about moving. She doesn't say so, only I can tell by how she's driving. Inching along the hot summer streets and peeking at signs like a cat. Sighing at every red light. Squinting out the window at the street corners and row houses. She keeps tapping angry fingers at Google Maps on her phone screen. She thinks she knows Brooklyn, but it's been a while. I don't understand, she says, frustrated. This thing has us jumping all over the streets. Ma pulls the car over and flicks on the hazard lights of our rental SUV. She takes the phone off the dash mount, fingernails clicking on the screen as she stares with photon beam focus. Mom believes in the power of apps and phone maps to get us places. The one thing she isn't doing is looking out the windows. But that's okay. I'm looking out for both of us. How did our blue dot just land us in the middle of Brooklyn Navy Yard? She says. Does it look like we're in the middle of the Navy Yard? Oh, wait, now we're in the East River? We are literally in a body of water? I'm waiting for the car horns to start blaring at us like they usually do when we stop and check directions. But there's no one around at all. It's like we found this one abandoned block in Brooklyn. I see a stop sign. There's a word scribbled underneath. Magic. M-A-G-I-K. It makes me smile. Brooklyn and magic have always gone together for me. When we lived here with Dad, our lives were full of magic. Tricks, shows, and convos about the all-time great magicians filled our home back then. Before Dad disappeared, and we left Brooklyn, and magic along with it. And Ma got so sick and tired of magic, she didn't even want to hear about it anymore. Then I realized the word magic is under the stop sign for a reason. It's a message. Stop magic. Well, would you look at that, says Mom. Yeah, I know. Stop magic sounds like good advice to you, right? Mom looks at me like she has no idea what I'm talking about. No, well, sure, I guess. But King, look. Before she can point her finger, I see it. Looming right there above us, like an elephant on the sidewalk. The Mercury Theater. We're quiet for a moment. I'm not sure how Mom will react. I don't even know how I'm reacting, honestly. Most times, when you visit a place you haven't seen in years, it seems small. Not the Mercury. And for sure, I've grown a ton since I was here. But somehow, the old theater is as huge as it ever was. It's like the dinosaur of buildings, bigger than everything around it, and from another time. Mom takes a deep breath, and I hear her tremble on the exhale. My heartbeat is jacked up quick, like I just hit the fast forward button a couple times. I remember how sad she was, back when Pop never came home that first night, when she filled out the missing person report, how we held each other and cried. I wonder if she's going to hit the gas and drive off like she did the day we left Echo City, like when she stashed all the pictures of Pops and his magic shows in a box down in the basement. I wonder if she's going to make a comment that cuts about magic and fools and leaving things in the past. But she doesn't do any of that. She opens her door and just stands there in the heat, taking it in. I hop out of the car and stand next to her. She doesn't look away from the theater, but her hand finds my shoulder. There's a hole in the dome of the theater, with pigeons flying in and out. There are carvings of vines and grapes all up and down the columns and in patterns surrounding the windows, elaborate, with carved birds here and there fluttering at the stems. There are two gargoyles with mouths open and fangs tilted to the sky at the foot of the dome, like they're trying to shout to the world about the fire. Even now, all these years later, you can see the charred marks of that blaze. To look at the marquee, you might think that the theater was just down for a week between shows. Random letters are scattered around like they're waiting to be reassembled and make sense. But look at the glass front doors and those rusty chains, and you know that the shows, the crowds, the magic are all a distant memory. The ticket booth is boarded up with cheap plywood that couldn't even keep out the rain. The underside of the marquee is lined with busted out light bulbs and shards like the stalactites of a cave. Ma takes my hand. Crazy how many things she can say with a touch. Things like, I miss him too. We're going to be okay. And I love you. And you still better not be thinking about doing magic. But she doesn't say a word. And believe me, Ma can talk when she wants to. We just stand there, holding hands, at the last place in this world anyone ever saw my father alive.
Zeno! That was a lot better than we did.
Yeah, it was a lot better.
Yeah.
I don't know how to turn my video.
Wow.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, you know, that
So
again
good,
brings
Zeno.
back to
Sir.
what it was all about. Kingston just never gives up about looking for his father, you know. And, you know, I know when Craig and I first started working on this, you know, we often talked about one of the things that inspired us was our fathers. And we both have strong fathers and fathers who have pushed us to do what we came here to do, and create, and then so we kind of took that essence of Kingston's father and put that into him. To his father, it's like he showed him magic at an early age and just never left him, and he was never going to let go of it, and he's going to hunt for his father no matter what. And so that's where that journey starts with. That's where that fire is in Kingston.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that being said, let's get into the Q&A. Yeah, I have questions for you guys. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat. And feel free now in this time, everybody in the audience, ask our authors anything at all about Kingston, the book, creatively what inspired them, and then I'll see what we can do. In the meantime, I have some questions for you all. So like you said, Kingston's inspired by his father. His father instills this love, this passion for magic inside of him. So what about Kingston? What inspired Kingston? Tell us about him. Maybe tell us about who Kingston is, and as any more details you can give about what exactly happened to his father.
Well, I'm gonna kick this over to Theo, because I thought it was interesting the way this all came together is, Harold and I had written our initial pages in the third person. And when we took it to Stacy and she introduced us to Theo, he kicked it back to us in the first person. And we were suddenly really inside of Kingston's head in a totally different way. So I'd be curious to hear from Theo, like when he first read those chapters and then he wanted to go inside Kingston's head, how did you see him when you first experienced it?
Well, it's interesting just hearing that reading, which Zeno is fantastic, by the way. Now, you read that thing from cover to cover. I really appreciate the reading and just the character and drama that you gave those words. So what sort of hit me is that anchor of love that he had with his mother. That sense of safety and not quite taken for granted, but there's a bit of that he had that security to go on this kind of foolhardy father quest in some way, because he had such a good security from his mom. So that for whatever reason, as you were reading, I felt her presence very strong for him. That she's there loving him, and it's that kind of love that, like, it's not the one you're looking right at, right? But it's the one that's giving you so much security that you can look out, and fantasize about, bringing lost people back and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I know that was one thing we talked a lot about with Nina, his mom, because it was this balance, because she's really protective of him because she knows that he loves magic and he loves his dad, and she doesn't want him to go down this path that Preston went down, his father. So it was this balance of making sure that we're showing the love that Nina has for him, but there's also a lot of restraint that she's trying to put on him about getting into magic, and she's taken him completely out of Echo City. So when we start the book, she's going back because she's got to try to save this family magic shop, and that's kind of the cards she's been dealt, for lack of a better metaphor. But so yeah, it was cool to hear that, because I felt it. When you hear somebody as talented as you read it, you feel the love between the two of them right away. It's great.
Exactly.
As we say in acting, like you can only write. Good writing lends itself to the reader, and as someone who was Kingston's age, has a mom like Kingston's mom, it was very easy for me to connect with that kind, not just Kingston's mind, but her mind as well. Being young and having this passion for this thing you love, and not necessarily caring or seeing or caring to see all of the dangers all of the cons that maybe that might come with something that you love that much because you love it that much. Yeah, it was that's great. I love hearing about that kind of stuff. What brings Kingston to the pages? Harold, anything?
I mean, when it came to first person and hearing Theo put it in first person and hearing Kingston's voice in that way, it was an immediate, yeah, Theo's the man. he's gonna go on this journey with us, and together we're gonna make something. And I've actually never met Theo in the flesh, so only been talking on the phone and sending things through Slack but we all share kind of like this symbiotic mind for the love of Kingston, and it was interesting because we ended up striking this strong collaboration where we just understood that we wanted to make Kingston's journey the most central part of the story, right? And then obviously he has his best friend Tutal and Veronica who go on the journey with him. But it was like, I'm not from Brooklyn, I'm not from New York, so hearing Theo kind of put that voice to it like that really made it authentic to me, and I'm grateful that Theo, you're working together with us on this.
Thank you.
Awesome. So like we mentioned earlier, that there are, Kingston's into magic, his dad was into magic, but there are other magical entities in Echo City, Brooklyn, namely Black Herman. Do you want to, we didn't get to him in the reading, but is there anything you want to say about Black Herman? How did Black Herman, because he's a real life figure, it maybe influence the book? What other, I know you did extensive research on, Black magicians. So anything like that, what Black magicians and historical research also went into the creation of Kingston, and how did that come about?
All right. So I'll get really real here in that, when you're writing a story, you come up with the characters and so Kingston just always was a Black character. But there was a point where I started questioning, should he be? Only because I was unsure if there was a history of Black people liking magic. Right? And it was interesting because I of course enjoy seeing it and I enjoy reacting to it, but I just never really you hear about Houdini, you hear about Herman, you hear about your normal, not normal, but great fantastic magicians, but I never heard of any really Black magicians. And so there was a question of is he just kind of a fish out of the water in this world? And what was interesting is that Craig actually found out through a cool way that there was this great lore of great history of Black magicians in the United States, that it did exist. And once you start to just know who they are, that information's out there. And we started to realize this is someone that these guys had really fantastic acts, and they actually were so famous that they packed theaters, especially in New York. Wow. And these guys were really, really fantastic. And so it became a way for us to really kind of lean into that and put these these people into the book as characters, and kind of give Kingston someone to kind of have as a sage of sorts, someone to kind of look up to, that would be kind of like a mysterious guiding force for him on his journey. And so it was a pleasant find, and research and asking yourself questions of should my character be this or that. I think what only kind of helped us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
well, I was gonna say the funny thing with Black Herman, I mean, he's just so fascinating, but he wrote this autobiography. It's called an autobiography, and we were just going through it, and it was, you know, you go through it and you start reading it, and you're kind of like, okay, none of this happened. Like, how, you know, he's talking about all these places he had been all over the world, and, you know, where he was born, and he escaped from here and he did that. But that was kind of a thing that magicians did back in the day. But it was perfect because we're like, we're going to fictionalize this guy, but he's already fictionalized himself, like in his own autobiography.
Right.
So, like, you know, it was just such a great jumping off point.
That was an entry point, actually, is how could all the stuff he wrote in his autobiography maybe be true? And so we sort of, that was part of how we worked it into our little fantastical realm situation, that somehow by the realm, no, he actually was born over here, and he visited Egypt, and he went to, you know, all these places that would have been very hard to travel to back in his day. So it gave us it helped us like kind of enhance his mythology. And
cool. That's super dope. So it's like, you know, we've got our main characters, and then we've got this like legendary, you know, folklore, you know, sage figure, who you know, probably turns out to be real. And then, you know, we have this all weaved in this mystery of Kingston's missing father, and this all takes place in you know, Echo City, Brooklyn. So what, you know, Echo City, Brooklyn is a place you guys created. So tell us about, you know, we know a little bit about some of the characters. You know, tell us about the setting where the magical land this takes place in, of Echo City, Brooklyn.
I gotta let Theo start that. I mean, you know Brooklyn the best.
Well, Theo, you're in Brooklyn right now. Is there a real?
I mean, that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is maybe Echo City is here. You know, it's just. So Echo City is this kind of, it's like just a neighborhood in Brooklyn that has this storied history of magic, and particular Black magicians that, you know, used to attract people from all over the city, kind of thing. And but it's fallen on hard times since the fire, since Kingston's father left, and now it's kind of all the old magic shops are like, you know, converted into supercuts or takeout places, takeout restaurants, and so it's kind of forgotten its past, and, you know, but it still has this kind of, you know, neighborhood Brooklyn, you know, brownstone, you know, big trees and the roots breaking through the sidewalk kind of thing. And so it still has this kind of, you know, charm to it from people that live there, but it's like this kind of forgotten neighborhood.
Cool. Yeah, keep going.
Well, I was going to say, you know, one thing too, that we kind of found this as we were going through drafts, but when we started weaving Black Herman, and we created kind of this connection with Echo City and some of the bigger lore that you'll get into when you read the book. But it allowed us to create a place that has this history of magicians that are tied back to real magicians that were living in New York City and performing in various places. And then even like tricks, like there's a trick called Hooker's Rising Card that's just got this great history, and it's actually tied into this guy used to perform it in a back house that you had to get, you know, some exclusive invitation to go see it, and everybody was talking about it, and they would let like 10 people in. So it was cool doing all this research to kind of create this little town that ties into the research we did on Black magicians, and then the research on all the interesting magic history that was going on in New York and in Brooklyn, and then just kind of making Echo City this sphere of influence in that world. And it was fun kind of building it out that way.
Yeah. Cool. Not only that, it was fun to let me see.
Oh yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
draw it up. Our friend Cien, she
big props to Cien for that. There it is.
She actually made a little map. And so what's cool about that is you can kind of find your way through it as you're reading the book. You know, so we love illustrating it and really making it come to life. You know,
like any good fantasy book, you gotta have the map.
Gotta have the map. Gotta have it.
Yeah. But Cien did all that, the map, and there's some illustrations in there, and it was amazing. I think Theo had like sketched out on a napkin with coffee on it, like the beginning of that, and then we sent
it wasn't a napkin, but there was definitely coffee stains on it.
But it was, and then Cien just brought that to life. That was actually a really good point of reference too, because when you're getting into it, you could be like, okay, so we're technically right here right now. We got to get them over to here.
Like, do they have enough time to do that before?
That probably adds a sense of realism to it, though, as well. Like it helps ground the story even more. And Matthew, I see your question in the comment. I hope all of this answers your question. He was Matthew in the comment section was asking, how did you weave in the real life history into the story? I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to touch on, but I know we covered Black Herman. Actually, being from, Theo's actually from Brooklyn. They're inspired by, Brooklyn, and interweaving, they thought about their own fathers when referencing the character of Kingston's father.
There was a rule that we created, which was no wands, no spells, at least for book one. I know it went into book two too, but the reason why
there might be some incantations in book two.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the rule initially, because we really wanted to kind of like really pay homage to the practicing magicians out there, and that they work hard to build tricks. They work hard to create illusion, and that through that process, which is great for a young man, he gets to build some confidence and such. But then we kind of took it. We had to take it a little further, and you do have to bring in some fantastic elements. So we started like also diving into things that other interests that we have, like theoretical physics. Michio Kaku, who's also a New Yorker, was a great influence to us, and just like different things of like alternate worlds and different dimensions and stuff like that. And so, we talk about all kind of different things that could really seem like magic, but were, possible. They're still possible. So we really want to kind of ground it as much as possible.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Cool. We have.
It gets wild though. It still gets wild.
We have another question from Vroman's Live. This is: did you have any interest in magic prior to writing Kingston?
We are not magicians, and I personally don't know any magic tricks. I definitely the history of magic is fascinating to me. Like there's this guy Jim Steinmeier who writes all these books. It's funny, our friend Mary, her husband James actually put us onto him, and he helped land the Mars rover today. So a lot of cool stuff happening. Fascinating, yeah. But James is a magician, so shout out to him. But he is a magician, and he was the one that told me, like, start reading Jim Steinmeier books, and there's just so much good stuff there. But we actually didn't find Black Herman in any of that. But not a magician, but interested in the history. Yeah.
I like it, but I like seeing it and being amazed by these real life superheroes. But I do not know any magic.
Yeah, cool. Harold did a talk with Justin Willman, who's a great magician. He has a show on Netflix yesterday, and it was cool hearing Justin talk about how important he feels like it is for kids, because he says when he was a kid, he was the only kid that did magic in his school. Nobody else did magic. Yeah. And he said it gave him so much confidence to learn how to perform and speak and you know, how you had to really work hard at something and be okay with, you know, embarrassing yourself sometimes and all these things. And it was really cool to hear that, because, you know, we have this kind of origin story of a young magician in this book, and to hear him, and he's become a great success, kind of had a similar, you know, path as well. So that was cool to hear.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you know, and the other thing he mentioned was magic was his bait to reading, right? So, so when the magic was there, he started looking for all the secrets in all these other books. I mean, for me personally, science was the bait for me into reading and science fiction. So it wasn't until I found like some really cool authors, like my favorite, like Arthur C. Clarke and Madeline L'Engle, and John Christopher, that I started to like really start to dive into reading a lot of books. And so I hope this kind of sparks some of that for somebody else out there, to kind of find that thing that sparks them and kind of baits them into reading some more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I were like, you know, I mean, I already like the book, and I'm you know 20 something. If I were like a kid and this book was like available, I'd be all into it. It probably would get me into like magic and magic tricks. Like, you know, like I used to read like spy books as a kid, and that would make me want to get like the spy kits, you know, with the secret spy gadgets you could get. Right. And like if I had a book about a young black kid into magic, especially if I was a young black kid into magic, nobody else into magic, I'd love this book. You know, I love that. Like just being seen. I think that's what's really important.
Absolutely.
Very true. Adults can enjoy kids' books. Hey, books are for everybody. You know, why are we limiting it? I have a question from Danielle Glantz. It's what was your favorite part about writing about Brooklyn, and what neighborhoods are Echo City based on? Okay. I know we spoke a little bit about Echo City.
I'll let Theo take that one, but I'll say there's a couple things that there's a reference to there's a pizza place in the book that has such a great story that with Theo, when we were talking about it, it's so good. It's like, it's a very insider Brooklyn thing that when I read it, I had to ask Theo, I was like, what is this? And you know, if I had lived in Brooklyn, I probably would have known about Ray's Pizza, but I'll let Theo.
So there's a pizza place in my neighborhood. It's called Not Ray's Pizza, because there's like 100 Ray's pizzas all over. There's famous Ray's, there's fabulous Ray's, original famous Ray's, and like so somebody opened up a Not Ray's Pizza, so we opened up Not Ray's Pizza to see the standard. So people would know they were coming to Echo City. So not Ray's. So the neighborhoods, I guess, I feel like a little bit of like Bushwick flavor, and it's kind of in some of its industrial, kind of more rundown parts. And then a little bit of like Bed-Stuy, and kind of like where you have this kind of flavor and these beautiful tree-lined blocks at the same time, and then like, you know, these streets that have stores that are just, you know, stores everywhere, even though there aren't a lot of people around. So that part, I guess, we kind of invented, because Brooklyn, usually there's somebody somewhere. But you know, we wanted it to feel like its own kind of magical place, and then we actually wound up kind of using the concept of Echo City as a sort of device for our kind of greater magical scheme, which was also really fun. And so what neighborhoods, was there another part of the question?
It was mostly, what was your favorite part? What neighborhoods it was inspired by? What's your favorite part about writing about Brooklyn?
Yeah, definitely describing the pizza, not Ray's.
Not Ray's. We gotta get a pizza box made. Like a New York style pizza box made, not Ray's. But the Kingston special edition.
Every time you're writing about like describing the way the oil pools and the pepperoni little slices and that kind of thing, that's fun always.
And Theo took me to see his friend at this amazing Italian place. We'll have to get a shout out to him. But it was. I mean, the food was amazing. I think we sat there pretty much every day, like when I was up there.
Hello. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to bring him a book. He slant made it into the book because his son's name is Matteo, and we named the pizza guy Matteo.
Oh, cool. Mateo's the name. I did that, but that's funny. That's dope. That's super dope. I have a question from Imani about the cover. Who designed the cover?
You can see for yourself. It is Dan Mumford, who, if you go check out Dan Mumford on Instagram, your mind just be prepared for it to melt, because this guy is off the charts. He's a, I wouldn't even say he's a concept artist, because he's more like poster art, but everything about it's just so vivid, and the colors. And the way we kind of did this is we all kind of collaborated on a Pinterest page. We just put up a bunch of stuff that we liked and things that, and Zeno, you know how visual we are. And then we kind of had talked to them loosely about this idea of the broken glass. And then Dan just went to town, and we've never met Dan. We've only kind of worked with him through Stacy, our publisher, but his artwork's amazing. So I would definitely check him out. And we've been having fun going back and forth on the second book right now.
Yeah, it's a great concept.
Yeah.
It's so much fun just picking out all the little like details from the book. Everything on the cover is out, it's a piece, it's somewhere in the book.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I always used to love that when I was a kid, when I would read and you don't quite want to close a book, but you're like, all right. And then you close it, but then you're like staring at the cover for all the things like, oh, is that what that looks like? So it's cool. Very cool.
I have another one from Vroman's also. It's what do you want your young readers to take away from reading the book?
Sense of adventure, to find magic everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one thing we were always talking about, is also that Kingston believes so much in his quest. And that's kind of an important lesson for kids, is that not to lose that imagination, that you believe that the things that you can manifest, the things you can find, the things that you want to be out there are out there. They may not always be in the way that you think they are, but they are. So yeah, that's really, what we want them to take.
Yeah, he also, I just wanted people to see someone go from normal to being super powerful. Okay, and that happens.
Yeah,
that to me was just super cool, because he's not like an alien who fell from a planet. This kid has a way of becoming this powerful person, and maybe it could happen to us.
He's like you and me, he's a kid with great potential, and a love and a passion for something that for him, and actually in reality in the story of the book, ends up being larger than him. And it's that sense of stepping up to that, and so that's really cool. And
book 2 just takes it even further.
Even further.
So it's a ride. I just hope that you get hooked on this first one. It's a good story to check out.
I have another question from Imani, and it's, how do all of you relate to Kingston? How do you relate to him? What do you see?
Good question, Imani.
Good question.
I think I relate to Kingston in the sense that when I was a kid, I grew up in the South in Atlanta, and I was surrounded by like a grandfather who told all these amazing stories, and I was just surrounded by things that made my imagination blossom at that age. And I feel like I was constantly looking for adventure, and my relationship to Kingston would be the sense of a kid that something that like you've seen with your own eyes is almost impossible to believe, and then your own father disappearing into a mirror. I feel like that kind of quest and that kind of story, and wanting to be that kid and wanting to have that kind of adventure, like wanting something to happen to me where I had to step up to the plate. I feel like that's definitely how I personally relate to Kingston, and I think we carry that on in our lives as we get older too,
Yeah. Just when you have your heart set on something, you really should go after it. And he does that. And that's sort of, I think, how I try to live my life day to day. The way is just trying to make the dreams happen.
Yeah, there's a certainty to him that it could be rooted in innocence, or maturity kind of. It's like, he doesn't let the conventional wisdom that magic isn't real influence what he knows in his heart is true. And I think that's something that everybody struggles with, and that we can connect to about him.
And if I may also chime in, I've been in a position similar to Kingston, where there's something that I want really bad, that I believe in, and that no matter what anybody says to me, that I'm not going to let anything get in the way of me and this thing that I love, and I'll do whatever it takes. For me, that was like acting. For Kingston, it's magic and his father. And I definitely relate to being a young Black kid in the city, and reconnecting with family members, and while like exploring your passions with them. And that's kind of what I personally really like about this book, is I see a lot of myself in it. Just putting my little 2 cents in.
So good.
We have time for one more question, so I'll close it out and just say, it's February, it's Black History Month. Kingston is the story of a young, African American boy, and we talked earlier about, making the decision about Kingston being a Black kid. I didn't know about any Black magicians growing up. So how does it feel for the three of you to be writing this novel about a young? Does him being young and Black influence anything about the story, the characters, anything about that culturally? What anything you guys want to speak on with having a Black hero as your protagonist?
Well, again, like I said, we found him through Craig finding out that his favorite one of his favorite singer or musicians that he likes was named after Benjamin Rucker. His son-in-law was a musician. What I'll say is this: it's like, the character is a character. The character is who he is. What I love about this process was writing with these two guys is that we didn't come at it from a standpoint like that was an agenda. We came at it from that he's a real character, and and we just kind of like wanted to honor his journey, and we didn't take light of the fact that he was a Black kid, in Brooklyn, and what that means. But at the same time, we didn't let that get in the way of the adventure, and we really wanted it to still be fun. And that collaborative spirit between these two guys, I think we never put one person's agenda in front of the other. So sharing that with Theo and Craig was just like, when Craig found something, he brought it to us, and then we just kind of said, "Oh, that's it. That's the juice right there." And then we started adding that into it. and nobody like argued about it because it was something to really like to honor and make the story richer, you know. And so I think through the collaboration and through being open to hearing everybody's ideas, we were able to really make a rich story, a rich story for that only made the fact that he was Black better because of the research that we all kind of try to dug and find out, and never just giving up on one person, you know, just giving up and saying, I don't know if he should be Black, but Craig found something, Theo found things, and we all just kind of like worked together and made it happen.
And early on, we always saw him, like really early on, we always said it's like a 12-year-old version of Basquiat. That was like I remember like the Jeffrey Wright Basquiat, and there would be all these great scenes. He would walk out into the streets and he'd look up in the sky and there's like a wave crashing, and I always loved that. I was like, just imagine like what's the 12-year-old version of that? And I think that was the character. Like when we started talking about that early on, that was it. Like that's just imagine him seeing the world that way, and it was, we could place him. And then, you know, and that put him in Brooklyn too. So.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a real, it was a real honor to, you know, to try to bring that world to life, and to be able to, you know, find things like, you know, the Black Herman histories and you know, some other really interesting characters, you know, Henry Box Brown, Madame Deborah Sapphira, like all these sort of, you know, to be able to kind of pull those out, and just, you know, just pay greater tribute to the experience of these characters in this world. You know, it was very humbling and you know, and it's very, you know, very appreciative of the opportunity.
Yeah, the first American magician ever, Richard Potter, was Black, and he was on record like the first person that was performing magic. Like this is 1780s, you know. It's great. Like
that's dope. I never even knew that.
Like we don't know. Crazy. Like I don't even want to know what was going on in the 1780s, but right. But that's like
that was part of the process. Learning about this stuff, and then you're like, how does no one know about this stuff? And then you're like, oh, of course. Like this is why, like we, this is kind of on everybody to get these stories out there.
That's fascinating.
Clear, you know, this is everybody's responsibility.
Yeah. That makes that puts like a more bigger weight like on the book. You know what I mean? Like that's fascinating. That's something that like imagine learning that through a book like this. You know, like I learned through reading this book that the first on record magician was a Black man, and that was, you know, that's really dope. That's a great way to like kind of how you guys were talking about earlier, like linking in real life historical magicians that we might not have heard of, and putting it into this really fun setting. So thank you, everyone. I think we're gonna start wrapping up right now. If you take it away.
Well, thank you so much for like such a fun discussion. I learned a lot about history of magic as well, and I'm pretty sure our audience did as well. Again, if you would like to purchase a copy of the book, just click on the green purchase button directly below the viewer's screen. We have the authors coming in to sign a couple copies, so if you would like a signed copy, just make sure to write signed copy in the comment section when you're completing your purchase. And also for those who jumped onto the stream late, don't worry, the replay of this talk will be available very shortly. Just use the same stream link. And again, thank you so much to those who joined in tonight. Thank you so much, Zeno, Theo, Craig, Harold. It was wonderful having you. And okay, have a good night, everyone. Oh, thank you,
Vroman.
I love your store.
That's our favorite spot.
I hope our doors will open again soon, and we'll see you all.
It's the best place ever.
All right, support your local bookstores, you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, stay safe, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Night.